In towns and cities across India, a silent threat lurks not in the shadows, but on the brightly lit shelves of local pharmacies. Many people reach for common medicines to ease pain, fight a cold, or manage a chronic illness, trusting that these products are safe. However, a significant number of these drugs carry hidden dangers. They have been banned or heavily restricted in developed nations like the United States, the United Kingdom, and Australia due to severe health risks. Yet in India, they remain widely available, often sold over the counter without a prescription. This gap in drug safety creates a serious public health crisis that affects millions of unsuspecting Indians every day. The problem stems from a complex web of regulatory delays, commercial interests, and a lack of public awareness. When a drug is found to cause harm, such as liver damage or heart problems, other countries often act swiftly to pull it from the market. They follow a precautionary principle, choosing to protect their citizens, even if the evidence of harm is not yet absolute. In India, the response is often much slower. Regulators may wait for local data to prove the drug is dangerous to the Indian population, a process that can take years. During this time, the drug continues to be produced, marketed, and sold, putting countless lives at risk. This situation means that an Indian patient might be prescribed a painkiller that a doctor in Europe would never use because it is known to cause fatal liver failure. A person with a common cold might buy a cough syrup containing a substance pulled from American shelves years ago for causing strokes. The medicines that are meant to heal can end up causing irreversible harm. The average person is often completely unaware of this discrepancy. They trust their doctor and their pharmacist, assuming that any medicine sold legally must be safe for consumption. This misplaced trust is at the heart of the problem. The continued availability of these controversial drugs is not a minor oversight. It is a systemic failure with profound consequences. It exposes a deep flaw in the country's drug regulation system, where the safety of citizens can sometimes take a back seat to other considerations. Understanding why this happens is the first step toward demanding change. It requires looking closely at the specific drugs in question, the reasons our system fails to act quickly, and the real-world impact this has on the health of the nation. Only by shedding light on this hidden danger can we hope to address it effectively and ensure that the medicine cabinet is a source of healing, not harm. A walk into many Indian pharmacies reveals a number of familiar brand names that are, in fact, red-flagged across the globe. One of the most prominent examples is Nimesulide, a popular painkiller. While it has been banned for use in children under 12 in India since 2011, it is still widely prescribed to adults for pain and fever. This drug has never been approved for sale in the United States, Canada, or the United Kingdom because of its well-documented risk of causing severe liver damage, sometimes requiring a transplant. Despite international warnings and its known toxicity, it remains a common choice in India, a testament to the gap between global safety standards and local practice. Another drug, metamizole, also known as Analgin, is a powerful pain reliever that can be bought over the counter in India. This drug was banned in the United States as far back as 1977. It was also withdrawn in Australia, Canada, and most of Europe. The reason for the ban is its potential to cause a granulocytosis, a rare but often fatal condition where the body stops making white blood cells, leaving a person defenseless against infections. While some combination forms of Analgin are banned in India, the single-ingredient drug is still accessible, exposing users to a risk that many other countries deemed unacceptable decades ago. For those suffering from coughs and colds, medicines containing phenylpropanolamine, or PPA, are a common sight. However, PPA was removed from all over-the-counter products in the United States and Canada in the early 2000s. Studies found a clear link between PPA and an increased risk of hemorrhagic stroke, a type of bleeding in the brain, particularly in young women. Yet in India, it continues to be an ingredient in popular cold remedies. This means millions of people are unknowingly taking a medication for a minor ailment that carries a small but catastrophic risk, a risk that has led other nations to completely ban its use. The list continues with drugs like Pioglitazone, an anti-diabetes medication linked to an increased risk of bladder cancer, which led to its suspension in France and Germany. Another is Propoxyphene, a painkiller banned in the United States and the European Union for causing life-threatening heart rhythm problems. Even muscle relaxants like clomazone, withdrawn globally in the 1990s for causing a severe skin reaction, can still be found. Each of these drugs represents a gamble with health, a risk that has been deemed too high for citizens in other parts of the world, but continues to be a part of the Indian pharmaceutical landscape. The persistence of these banned drugs in the Indian market is not due to a single cause, but a combination of deep-rooted systemic issues. A primary reason is the slow pace of India's regulatory bodies, such as the Central Drugs Standard Control Organization, or CDSCO. Unlike its counterparts like the United States Food and Drug Administration or the European Medicines Agency, the CDSCO often operates reactively. Instead of immediately acting on safety alerts and bans issued by other trusted international agencies, Indian regulators typically demand local evidence. They often insist on conducting their own studies to prove that a drug is harmful, specifically to the Indian population. This requirement for Indian data creates a dangerous time lag. It can take years to gather sufficient local evidence of adverse effects, and during this period, the drug remains on the market. Pharmaceutical companies often exploit this loophole. They argue that the risks observed in Western populations may not apply to Indians due to genetic or environmental differences. This argument, often backed by powerful industry lobbying, puts pressure on regulators to delay a ban. Since many of these controversial drugs are cheap to produce and highly profitable generics, there is a strong financial incentive for manufacturers to keep them in circulation for as long as possible. Furthermore, there is a significant lack of awareness among both healthcare professionals and the public. Medical education in India may not always be updated with the latest global drug safety information. As a result, some doctors continue to prescribe these drugs out of habit, or because they are unaware of the international bans and the associated risks. Pharmacists, in turn, dispense what is prescribed or what customers ask for over the counter. This information gap means that the gatekeepers of public health, doctors and pharmacists, may unknowingly be contributing to the problem by continuing to recommend and sell these medicines. Finally, even when a ban is eventually put in place, enforcement can be weak and inconsistent. The Indian pharmaceutical market is vast and fragmented, making it difficult to ensure that a banned substance is completely removed from every corner of the country. Manufacturers have also challenged bans in court, leading to lengthy legal battles that allow the drug to re-enter the market. This combination of slow regulation, powerful commercial interests, outdated knowledge, and patchy enforcement creates a perfect storm where dangerous drugs continue to be sold, threatening the health of the Indian public. The continued sale of globally banned drugs is not just a regulatory issue, it has a real and honestly devastating human cost. Behind the clinical data and policy debates, there are stories of individuals and families whose lives have been shattered by avoidable medical tragedies. Patients who took the painkiller Nimesulide have suffered from acute liver failure, which, as you might know, can be fatal without an emergency liver transplant. Just imagine someone taking a simple pill for a headache and then ending up in a critical care unit, their life hanging in the balance. These aren't just hypothetical scenarios. These are documented cases that highlight the severe consequences of using a drug that other countries have already deemed too dangerous. Similarly, the use of the pain reliever Analgin, also known as metamizole, has led to cases of granulocytosis. In this condition, the body's immune system basically collapses, making a person vulnerable to severe infections that can, frighteningly, become life-threatening very quickly. A simple infection that a healthy person would easily fight off can turn deadly. Families have lost loved ones to what started as a seemingly minor illness, all because the medicine they trusted to help them carried a hidden, fatal risk. These tragedies are all the more heartbreaking because, honestly, they are preventable. The warnings about Analgin have been clear in the global medical community for over 40 years, and the health consequences go even further. Cold and cough remedies containing phenylpropanolamine or PPA have been linked to strokes in otherwise healthy young women. A stroke can cause permanent disability, affecting a person's ability to speak, walk, and live independently. The fact that a medicine for the common cold could lead to such a catastrophic event is a shocking reality for those affected. The risk may be statistically small, but for the person who suffers the stroke, the consequence is 100% real and life-altering, a direct result of a drug that should have been removed from shelves long ago. These individual stories really do paint a grim picture of the public health impact. Patients taking the anti-diabetes drug Pioglitazone face an increased risk of developing bladder cancer, while those using the painkiller Propoxyphene are at risk of sudden cardiac arrest. Each case represents a failure of the system to protect its citizens. These are not just statistics. They are people who trusted the medical system for their well-being. The continued availability of these drugs means that every day, more Indians are unknowingly being put in harm's way. rolling a dice with their health every time they swallow a pill. The disparity in drug safety between India and other developed nations reveals a troubling double standard. In countries like the United States, the UK, and across the European Union, regulatory bodies operate on a principle of proactive caution. When credible evidence emerges suggesting a drug poses a serious risk, agencies like the FDA and EMA act decisively. They may issue strong warnings, restrict the drug's use, or order a complete withdrawal from the market. Their primary goal is to prevent harm before it becomes widespread. This approach prioritizes public safety above all else, even if it means acting on preliminary but serious safety signals. But in stark contrast, India's regulatory framework often appears to wait for proof of harm rather than acting to prevent it. The system frequently demands conclusive evidence of adverse events occurring specifically within the Indian population before it will even consider a ban. This reactive stance puts Indian citizens in the position of being test subjects for drugs already deemed unsafe elsewhere. It sort of implies that a drug is considered safe until proven dangerous on Indian soil, which is really a reversal of the precautionary principle followed by stricter regulators. This lag creates a dangerous period where a drug known to be harmful continues to be sold to millions. This difference in approach raises some pretty profound ethical questions. Does it suggest that an Indian life is valued less than an American or European one? Why should a citizen in India be exposed to a risk that is considered unacceptable for a citizen in another country? The pharmaceutical industry often argues that the risk-benefit profile of a drug can differ between populations. But for many of these banned substances, the dangers, like liver failure, stroke, or fatal blood disorders, are fundamental biological risks that transcend geography and ethnicity. The excuse of needing local data often serves as a delay tactic that frankly benefits commercial interests at the expense of public health. The practical outcome of this regulatory divide is a healthcare system where patients and even some doctors are not fully protected. While a doctor in London would face serious consequences for prescribing a drug like Analgin, a doctor in Delhi can do so with impunity. This is not really the fault of the individual doctor, but a failure of the overarching system that is supposed to provide them with safe and effective tools. The existence of these two different standards means that for the same illness, an Indian patient may receive a treatment that is far riskier than what a patient in a country with stronger regulations would receive. Fixing this critical issue requires a comprehensive and determined effort to overhaul India's drug regulatory system. The first and most crucial step is for the CDSCO to align its pharmacovigilance framework with global best practices. This means moving away from a reactive model to a proactive one. When a major international regulatory body like the FDA or EMA bans a drug due to serious safety concerns, India should treat it as an immediate red flag. An interim ban should be considered while a fast-tracked review is conducted, rather than allowing the drug to remain in circulation for years while local data is slowly gathered. Transparency is another vital component of the solution. The government should create and maintain a public, easily accessible online database that lists all drugs that are banned or restricted globally and clarifies their current status in India. This would empower doctors, pharmacists, and patients with the information they need to make safer choices. Packaging for drugs that are under review or carry known risks should feature clear, prominent warnings in multiple languages, explaining the potential dangers in simple terms. Public awareness campaigns on television, radio, and social media can further educate citizens about the risks of certain over-the-counter medicines. Education within the medical community must also be prioritized. Medical school curricula need to be continuously updated to reflect the latest global drug safety information. Furthermore, there should be mandatory continuing medical education for all practicing doctors and pharmacists that specifically covers new drug warnings, restrictions, and bans from around the world. This ensures that healthcare professionals are not prescribing out of outdated knowledge, but are equipped with the most current information to protect their patients. This would help close the information gap that currently allows dangerous prescribing habits to persist. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, the process of drug regulation must be shielded from undue commercial influence. The decisions about whether a drug is safe enough for the public must be based purely on scientific evidence and public health considerations, not on the profits of pharmaceutical companies. Strengthening the independence and authority of our regulatory bodies is essential to ensure they can act decisively in the public's interest without fear of industry backlash. By implementing these changes, modernizing regulations, increasing transparency, educating professionals, and ensuring independent governance. India can take the necessary steps to protect its people and ensure that every medicine sold is a promise of health, not a hidden threat.